Hi, it's Anne. Thanks for stopping by. What do you think of this little journal closure? Isn't it cute? It's almost like a little cummerbund that ties in the front, and it's such an interesting material. We're going to make one that's going to be very similar to this, but I think you'll be amazed when I show you what I used for this belly band, this wraparound belly band on this little journal. It is not a craft supply at all, but it became one. My friend Kathy the other day gave me a roll of tree wrap. Lots of different brands for this. You can get it at the hardware store, at the nursery, and she had it left over from something at her house. She said they weren't using it anymore. It's the kind of thing, if you have a young tree, it's like an ace bandage to go around a tree if it needs winter protection, if it's young, if there's some sort of, cut or something on the bark of the tree. People wrap this around trees until the tree heals itself. So it very much has that sort of ace bandage feel. In looking at tree wraps, there are burlap tree wraps. There are, I guess, a papery kind of tree wrap. This is one, excuse me, that I think it's a polypropylene or something like this. In looking at them, I think they're under $10 a roll, so not inexpensive. But if they're sitting around in your garage or your friend's garage and they are wanting to get rid of it, you can absolutely put this to use as a craft supply. I realized in working with this one, and this is just a journal cover that I just stuffed a kind of a placeholder signature into it. So this is not done, but I thought it looked really pretty, and it took the paint really well. I did a little bit of stitching on this, and to use it in the journal, you could untie it here. You could also just slip it off, but it makes, I think it'll make a nice little closure. Again, nothing is stitched in here. These are just placeholders in here. But I just wanted to see how this would work as a wraparound closure. And I thought it'd be cute for an internal belly band too. So let's just go ahead and find a couple of different ways that we can use this. I think I'm going to put a backing, and that's what I did on the one that I did on the prototype. But it is that polypropylene material. It's thin enough because they want it to be flexible to wrap around a tree. There's no there's no residue or anything that I get off of it. It's there's nothing sticky, and I did rub, and it's nice and clean. But I think because it is so flexible, it needs a little bit of stabilization. And so I cut a piece of just some coffee dyed cotton here. And I think this is going to be a decent size to wrap around here. This journal is a slightly larger than what I would usually put around a journal, but I like there being a little bit of a gap. Yeah, let's go ahead and use this one because that's going to be okay. And I'm just going to use my Fabri-Tac, well, my 3-in-1. Beacon has several different markets this same glue under several different names. 3-in-1, Fabri-Tac, or Fabri-Fix. You will find them called all of those things. And I'm just going to put that down here. And we'll be letting that glue dry. And then I'm going to make a belly band to put on a page as well, because I want to see how it cuts with a punch. I've been, as you know, using my circle punches a lot lately. So just this fabric, just like if you were sewing something, with a knit fabric or some sort of a thin fabric, you would want to put some sort of interfacing or some sort of stabilizer on it just to keep it from getting stretched. And it's not going to be super visible, but I do like this coffee stained. It'll be visible a little bit. There we go. Let me trim this off. we're going to stitch it into place again, just to stabilize it more. I didn't get a very straight cut there, so we'll just straighten that up. There we go. I'm going to set this aside and let it dry just a little bit. And then we're going to do the same thing for a belly band on a signature page, but instead of stabilizing it with fabric, I'm going to stabilize it with just a little piece of file folder. My friend Kathy gave me this the other day, and Kathy is also the one that gave me lots of file folders. So this is kind of a all Kathy all the time sort of project. I will send her the link. Let's see, most of my belly bands are going to want to be about 8.5, so I'm going to give that just a little bit longer. It cuts very, very easily. There, as you can see, there's a lot on here. Kathy said she had used it for a few card making projects and such as well, but she felt she had no further use for it, and she knew her friend Anne would be ever so happy to take it off her hands. All right, the Fabri-Tac once again will come to the rescue. This is apparently a brand called Force. The fine people at Force's Tree Wrap, Carahone Chemical Company in Fremont, Michigan. I've planted many trees in my lifetime, but honestly, I don't think I've ever had a reason to need a tree wrap. Apparently it's used a lot for fruit trees, and I can honestly say, of all the trees that I've planted or, raised from the sapling stage over the years, a fruit tree has never been among them. I've never had apples or pears or figs or anything in my garden. I have some fruits. I have some raspberries and blueberries, but I don't have any what you would call fruit trees. All right, here. That's how this is going to stay. So this is going to be the up and down belly band on a signature page. And this is going to be the very flexible wrap. The glue is drying here, and it's going to show a little bit, but it's on the interior of this wrap, so I'm not going to worry about that. I think, why don't we go ahead and add some paint to this, and then we'll let everything dry. I will do some stitching around the outside, and then we'll come back and do our final decorating. Should I put an underlay under here? Let me just grab something. Catalog to pop under there. And I'm going to just use my regular little craft acrylic paints. I'm going to I'm going to use sponge, just a little sponge brush, because I don't care if I mix things up at all. And I'm going to try, because when I did the first one, I realized I was probably better off when I had almost a dry brush or a dry sponge, because if I put too much goopy paint there, the paint doesn't really spread very well, so it can just sort of pool in that in those crevices in this polypropylene material. It's probably mixed with some paper fibers or something else. I do not know anything of the composition of the tree wrap other than what I was able to Google. So I'm just putting a few drops of some fall themed paints here, getting a contrast of colors. And just a little dab of each one, and we'll just kind of see how these do. Dried off pieces. Let's start with that pumpkin color. Should we do that? I'm dabbing, but on my little plastic surface here, I'm going to try to dab it off more so I don't have lots of, yeah, I'm just trying to get the top layers of that and not get so much paint on my brush that I'm letting it get goopy. And I might have some funny shadows here. I forgot to turn on that light. I've got so much on my desk right now, it might be blocking the light, so that might make things a little bit easier to see. Yeah, I didn't dab it off very much, and I don't know if you can see, I did get a little bit of pooling paint right there, but it's not so much that it's going to make a difference. I'm just trying to spread it out a fair amount. Yeah, I was surprised when I did that little prototype that it did seem to take to the paint really well. I don't know that this is something that I would rush out and purchase if you didn't already have it. But if you have it, by golly, why not use it? That's what I say. Okay, I'm just trying to clean off my sponge a little bit because I just have one here and I don't want to go. Let's put just some more occasional splotches of the green. This is going to be pretty subtle. I think that bone color is what's going to be showing up a little bit more on this textured surface. But we can see that green. I hope you can see it anyway. I can see it here. But I could see just putting this around, you know, just a brown paper journal like this that I just made out of a mailing envelope, a shipping envelope. I might do a little bit of color treatment on that, but nothing too much. Putting more green than I said I was going to here. Again, I'm not to be trusted. Let me hold it up. I hope maybe you can see that a little more closely. Yeah, I guess some of that color is kind of coming through. Now let's get to our brighter colors. Yes, that's really going to pop. Just little bits of that. If I am to be trusted at all when I say that. There, again, pooled a little bit there, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. The house is nice and quiet this afternoon. Our daughter's working at the hospital today, so she's not in and out in her ceramic studio in our garage. Not today, anyway. Dan and I are leaving in just a little bit to go pick up our grandson at day camp and take him to swimming lessons. Swimming lessons, I swear, they are just one of the most joyful things this summer. I mean, in my own journaling this summer, I talk a lot about taking Barney to swimming lessons. And it's just so much fun to see an 8, almost 9-year-old boy just really, really enjoy hopping in the pool at the community center and listening to his coach. You know, we just really emphasize that to him. You know, you're not there to play, you know, you're there to learn and to work hard. And Coach has done this a lot. So you listen to Coach, and when she tells you to shape your hand in a different way, you do all you can to do that. And he's just doing so well. he's at least at the point where he can be safe. You know, that's what you always want with kids with swimming lessons. You want them to be at a point where they're going to be able to enjoy, you know, the fun and the exercise of swimming and be safe while doing so. So there we go. I got one little blotch there that I made when I was there talking, and I went down instead of stroking, but I think I'm still going to be okay with that. What do you think of this? It looks really woodsy, doesn't it? I think I might need a little more. I'm looking down at it right now. I might need a little bit more of the bone over here. Just to bring a little more light in there. This is going to be on the back, but I want it all to be nice anyway. Okay, good. I've got my 2 pieces. I'm going to go clean up here. This is going to dry. This is going to dry. When this is dried, I'm going to go to the sewing machine and stitch around it, and then I'll be back when those 2 things have happened. Okay, I have let the paint and the glue dry. Again, that paint is pretty subtle, but I think for what I want for this, because, you know, it's going to be going around a journal, and it's going to be pretty visually appealing just with the ties there. I think I'm okay with this not being like a really huge visual statement. I think the texture can kind of speak for itself. So anyway, let's finish this guy up first, this wraparound closure. I'm going to mark, let's see, this whole thing is just under 3 inches across. And when I did the prototype, I did mark. And let's see, let's mark in about 3/4 of an inch from this side and about 3/4 of an inch in from this side. They look like little eyes there. And let's get out the Crocodile Big Bite. This is one of my favorite tools, and you know, I got it as a Christmas gift several years ago from Dan, who knew that I wouldn't want to shell out for a specialty tool like that on my own. I mean, you know, we didn't have to take out a second mortgage for it or anything, but I think it was maybe about a $40 item, more than I usually pay, because this is such a frugal hobby. I don't like to. Oh, I should show you what I did here. I just folded these 2 ends together, and I'm going to punch through all the thicknesses at once, just so they're nicely evened up. Anyway, it is a super handy tool, and I'm glad that I have it. But you know, I know some people that have them and they never use them, and they rue the day that they purchased them. They don't work well for them, you know, so your mileage may vary. For me, I like the Crocodile Big Bite, but you know, everybody crafts in a different way. All right, I've punched the holes there, and one thing I do like about this, you know, with this big handle here is, I mean, you can go through thick book covers. You can, you know, you can really go through a lot of thicknesses. So it has more horsepower, I guess, more strength than just a little hand punch would have. All right, I'll get my little eyelets tucked in there, and I can set them all with the same tool. Do this 4 times. Whoops, it's jumping out there. There we go. It's okay. We have plenty of time before we have to go to day camp and then go to swimming lessons. So it's a leisurely afternoon, which is probably a good thing, because for some reason I'm having a hard time getting this lined up. There we go. Let's press that down. See that eyelet? splits on the other side and gets itself set in there. There's this one. Yeah, in looking, I chose the gold eyelets because I did want there to be a little flash of metal on there. And if I had had a good quality metallic gold paint, I would have, you know, put some gold on there too. Don't have anything like that. I have some gold paint, but it's really sheer. It doesn't make a nice statement. And I don't have any gold leaf or any of that kind of gold paste. I would totally recommend, if you have anything like that, give it a try on this tree wrap, because I think it would look, I think that contrast between the luxury of the gold and the rustic nature of this tree wrap, that's, I mean, it's designed to look like bark. It's designed to be rustic and bumpy in that way. I think that juxtaposition of the rusticity of the texture and the elegance of the gold could be really, really effective. All right, there is our little wrap. Let's put it on our little, this is just sort of a little fake journal right now. I will finish it, but, you know, again, I stuffed in, you know, pages you've seen already, just to hold it in place. Oh, isn't that going to look cute? And it, you know, if I could put it on something smaller and these two things would just be closer together. If this journal gets, you know, really hefty, you know, it can just come apart. It's like elastic waist pants. And I have some of this twine. This twine is kind of thin, so maybe I'll double that up. And does that look like it's going to be enough? It should be. And I kind of like how it's coming out, kind of curly like that. And let's put a double thickness through each hole. And you know, you don't have to completely unthread them every time. You can just loosen them and slide them off when you're getting into your journal. I also like the crinkled seam binding that I did with this one. And see, this one, the colors I chose were they just look a lot brighter than the one that we just did. But you know, there's room for both. There's room for all. Let's go ahead and tie this, and then we'll get the other one in place, just so it lays nice and flat. Oh, I think this looks so cute. And then we're going to turn to the other one. That's going to be a belly band. And I have an idea that I haven't tried yet for decorating that. So we'll just kind of see how that works. This jute twine goes through here really easily. I don't think I'd want to have more than a set of two. You could probably cut this in half and just have it be one eyelet. There we go. All right. Oh, what a cute little closure. It just looks like it's just giving it a hug, doesn't it? I love it, and I love the texture of that tree wrap, and I love the fact that there's just a little bit of paint on there bringing it to life. I'm not going to paint our next project, though, because I kind of want to see how it's going to look just on its own, because that brown is so nice and rich. One thing I'm going to do, I want this to be a belly band that has a porthole in it. I don't know why, I just do. And so I'm going to take a little scrap of file folder. And this is going to be a little bit of a template. I guess I could go ahead and cut this down to be exactly 8.5 inches. I gave myself a little bit of spare there. There we go. Yeah, let's go ahead, because the reason I want to do that is I want to make certain that this little circle that I want to punch out, if that works, in the center of this thing is pretty much in the middle. All right, so this bad boy is 8.5, so let's mark 4.25 for the midpoint. And this is going to be on the side that's facing down on the page, so we're not going to see that. And then I can kind of eyeball where that is, and I just want to lightly mark around here so that I can put my paper punch, my hole punch, in the right place. Yeah, I guess I could maybe move it a little bit more this way. All right, now I'm going to hold my paper punch upside down. I didn't do machine stitching around this one because I think I probably won't need that for a belly band on a signature page. And there, I sort of have that lined up there where my little cheat lines are. All right, moment of truth. I'll be darned. That punched nicely, didn't it? It really did. Now let's decorate it. I ran across in my card making stuff, because I was making cards last weekend, I guess it was, a little thing of small die cuts, you know, things that I use just to embellish some of my greeting cards. And I thought, you know, I got to get those out. I just, you know, these are just things that I cut from, you know, little decorative die cuts. And this was all from the same set. This was a Stampin' Up set. And there's some little mid-century cups of coffee. There's little cocktails. I think I only have 2 cocktails there. There's cookies. Let me pull out. Oh, there's 3 cocktails. My goodness. Somebody's having some summer fun there. Let's turn these around. And for some reason, I had some of these little turquoise circles in there. And there's these cookies, and there's these sort of bonbons. Let's look and see what looks best. I somehow like these cookies on here. Is that decadent? Maybe if I was doing cocktails, I think I would put one of these turquoise circles behind it. But I don't think I want that for this coffee and cookies. That just seems a little like overkill. Don't think I want bonbons. Let me get out more of the cookies. There we go. There's 3 cookies, and maybe I'll put a cup of coffee down here. Kind of wish I had a coffee cup that was a different color. But the fact is I don't. So I'm going to go with that. Realize I was probably off frame there. Maybe there's no coffee cups to be had. Maybe I just go with the cookies. That looks kind of cute. Maybe I can overlap some on that little porthole. Let's just get out our 3-in-1 glue and see how that works. The 3-in-1 glue, known by other names throughout the land. but it works really well on fabric or any kind of papery sources. Also works fine on paper. And I think I'm going to put 5 cookies on here, just because the odd numbers are always good. There we go. Boy, this is compelling viewing, isn't it? Who would have ever thought that we would be using tree wrap out of my friend Kathy's garage for a craft supply? But here we are, and it's adorable. I think it's so cute, and I think I'm probably going to use that whole roll over time. I think the timing is great because it looks so woodsy and will be so nice with fall colors in a fall journal. But this could go in a whimsical journal, couldn't it? Wouldn't that be cute? It's kind of a lot of brown on brown. Let me see how that looks on a sheet of coffee dyed paper. Might be a whole different look. There we go. Oh, that looks so cute. Super cute. And you could add a little bit of color in there. I have these on my desk. Yeah. Let's just go ahead and see how these little stickers could look on here. Look almost like little pieces of candy or something, don't they? Let me mix up. There's a little adhesive on the backs of these. That could be cute in a little recipe journal. Yeah, I like that little bit of color in there. Let's add one more, so we have 5. Yes, 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 yes. Anyway, there are a couple of things you can do with a piece of tree wrap. I hope your trees are doing well and no longer in need of this bandaging reinforcement. But if you have a little bit of that left over, or if your neighbors have some, or if you see some partial roll in the thrift store or someplace that you want to pick up, I think you'll have a lot of fun with it. We'll see you soon, guys. Thank you so much.